Karen James woke with a jolt, her heart racing, palms clammy, and her head pounding with a merciless ache. The sunlight stabbed through towering windows, slicing into her skull and forcing her eyes shut again. Her mouth was dry, bitter with the taste of last night's drinks, and her stomach turned sharply with every shallow breath. This wasn't her room. The sheets smelled of fresh linen, softer than anything she owned, and the space around her was far too grand to belong to her modest apartment. Sleek marble floors gleamed beneath soft golden sunlight, and modern furniture, accented with glass and gold, made the room feel like something from a luxury magazine. A faint scent of cologne lingered in the air, blending with freshly brewed coffee. Panic gripped her. She forced herself upright, though her body screamed in protest, muscles stiff and heavy as if she'd danced for hours. The room spun violently. She pressed trembling fingers to her forehead, whispering through cracked lips, "Where am I?" Her reflection in a wide mirror answered nothing. Her curls, usually springy and polished, were tangled, her eyeliner smeared, in dark shadows beneath her tired eyes. Her burgundy office party dress was wrinkled, one strap slipping off her shoulder, and her heels were nowhere in sight. Footsteps outside made her tense, clutching the sheet tighter around her body. The door opened, and in walked a tall man with striking brown eyes and an air of calm authority. His jaw was sharp, his dark brown hair neatly cropped, and though he wore a casual shirt and jeans, his presence filled the space with quiet confidence and wealth. He held a steaming mug in his hand. "You're awake," he said, his voice deep but even. "Tea. For the hangover I'm sure you've got." Karen's throat was too dry to form anything but a raspy whisper. Who are you? Where am I?" He set the mug on a side table and leaned casually against a chair, his gaze steady but not threatening. "Corey Hillman," he replied. "You're safe. Don't worry." Her stomach twisted. She tried to recall the night before. The office, party celebrating their company's biggest client win. Laughter, champagne toasts, shots someone pushed into her hand when she'd already had too much. Dancing in dizzy circles. After that, nothing but fragments. "I remember the party," Karen murmured, shame prickling her skin. "But not how I got here." Corey nodded slowly. "You were sitting on the steps outside the venue when I left. You could barely keep your head up and no one seemed to notice. I remembered you from the boardroom meeting last week. I wasn't about to leave you like that, so I had my driver bring you here. You passed out on the way." Heat flooded Karen's cheeks. "So, nothing happened?" Her voice cracked with both fear and hope. "Nothing," Corey said firmly, locking eyes with her. "You needed rest, not trouble. You slept. That's it." The sincerity in his tone loosened the knot in her chest. She reached for the tea, the peppermint steam soothing her raw throat as she sipped. The warmth steadied her hands. Beyond the tall windows, the city skyline glimmered in the morning light. Karen set the mug down and studied him. "Why help me?" "You didn't have to." Corey leaned back, arms folded loosely. "Because I know what it's like. To be too far gone, too vulnerable. I wouldn't want anyone left alone like that." Her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. Mortified, Karen covered her face, but Corey only chuckled. "Come on," he said, standing with a faint smile. "Let's get you something to eat. Food makes everything better." She hesitated, every instinct torn between bolting and trusting. But something in his calm, almost protective demeanor made her pause. Against reason, she found herself whispering, "Okay." The dining room was just as breathtaking as the bedroom. Glass walls, soft light, and a breakfast spread that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel. Fresh fruit, scrambled eggs, toast, and rich coffee. Karen sat carefully, still shaken, while Corey moved with quiet ease, pouring coffee for them both. Before she could say another word, the pitter-patter of small feet echoed across the polished floor. A little girl came running in, sliding into the chair beside her with infectious energy. "Hi, pretty lady." Daddy said you weren't feeling good. Are you better now? Karen blinked, startled, then smiled gently. A little better. I'm Karen. What's your name? The girl beamed. Katie Hillman. Nice to meet you. Karen glanced at Corey, who gave her a patient half-smile before sipping his coffee. Katie leaned closer, eyes wide with curiosity. You should stay for my tea party at 10. Daddy always comes, but it would be way more fun with a girl. Karen chuckled softly. I don't know if I'm dressed for a tea party. Katie waved her hand dramatically. That's okay. My Aunt Ellen always leaves clothes in her room. You can borrow something. Karen hesitated, feeling out of place, but Corey stepped in gently. Eat first, Katie. Let her breathe, huh? Katie pouted but nodded, still bubbling with excitement. Karen hid a laugh behind her cup. She's got your determination, she teased. Corey smirked. You have no idea. As breakfast continued, Karen found herself laughing, actually laughing at Katie's endless chatter. For the first time since she woke up, she felt the tight coil in her chest loosen. And when Katie darted off to call Aunt Ellen about the tea party, Karen realized something she hadn't expected. This strange morning might not be the disaster she first thought. It might be the beginning of something she would never forget. Expanded. Transition scene between portion 1 and 2. Katie ran off to her room, practically skipping with excitement. Moments later, Karen could hear her animated voice through the hallway. The little girl was on the phone with her Aunt Ellen, spilling every detail about the new tea party guest she had just acquired. Karen shook her head with a small laugh as she sipped her coffee. A few minutes later, Katie came bouncing back, her curls bobbing. Aunt Ellen said you can borrow anything from her closet. She says it's not often I get to share tea with someone besides her and Dad. Karen chuckled, warmed by the girl's enthusiasm. Well, that's very kind of her. I suppose I'll stay. But first, I need to call my family and let them know I'm safe. She stepped into the hallway, dialing her sister Chloe. As the phone rang, Karen hesitated. How was she even going to explain this? Hi, I had too much to drink at the office party and woke up in the penthouse of the CEO's friend, when Chloe answered. Karen kept it simple. Just that she had been looked after by someone trustworthy and she was fine. Chloe, ever the sharp, asked a million questions, but eventually sighed in relief. Okay, but Mom and Dad will want details tonight. You know how they are. Karen smiled. Don't worry, I'll tell them everything. Later, Katie and Karen spent nearly half an hour rummaging through Ellen's guest closet before deciding on a floral dress that fit Karen surprisingly well. Katie clapped her hands in delight, declaring it perfect tea party attire. While Corey worked quietly in his office, the two sat at a small table in the sunlit living room, sipping apple juice in teacups and chatting. Katie chatted about her life, her school friends, her favorite books, and the fact that her mom now lived across the country with her new husband. Karen, in turn, shared about her own family. Her mom, Erica, her dad, Bruce, and her younger sister, Chloe. We still have Sunday dinners every week, Karen said with a fond smile. It's our little tradition. Katie's eyes widened. Are you going to see them today? Yes, Karen replied warmly. Then, with a playful tilt of her head, she asked, Would you like to come? Katie gasped, her face lighting up. Like Christmas morning. Really? Can I? Please? Karen laughed and pulled out her phone. Let's see what my mum says. When Erica answered, Karen explained the situation quickly. Hi, Mum. Would you have room for 2 more guests tonight? Erica chuckled knowingly. Of course, sweetheart. Bring them along. We'd love to meet them. Karen beamed. Perfect. Now we just need to ask your dad. Katie shot up from her seat and bolted down the hallway toward Corey's office. Dad! We're invited to Karen's family dinner. Corey looked up from his laptop, startled. What? Tonight? Yes. Please, please say yes, Katie begged, bouncing on her toes. Corey's brows furrowed. I don't think we should impose, sweetheart. Just then, Karen appeared in the doorway, laughter in her eyes. "You saved me last night, fed me breakfast, and gave me the best tea party I've had in years. My family would love to thank you in person." Corey hesitated, then let out a long breath. Finally, a small smirk tugged at his lips. All right, we'll go. But only because Katie looks like she might explode if I say no." Katie squealed, hugging both of them before running off to pick out her dinner outfit. Karen watched her go, her heart unexpectedly full. That evening, the James family home was buzzing with activity. Erica set the dishes on the dining table, while Bruce poured drinks, and Chloe straightened the place settings. The warm scent of roasted chicken and herbs filled the air. When Karen walked through the door with Corey and Katie behind her, her mother immediately rushed forward, enveloping her in a hug. Relief softened Erica's features as she pulled back. Then she turned to Corey and Katie with open arms. "Thank you for looking after my baby girl," she said warmly, pulling them both into an embrace that made Katie giggle. Bruce stepped forward, offering Corey a firm handshake. His eyes softened as he bent slightly to shake Katie's hand more gently. "We appreciate you looking out for Karen," he said with a nod. Everyone gathered around the James family dinner table, laughter filling the room as plates of food were passed and stories exchanged. Conversation flowed easily. Karen's mom, Erica, shared a funny story from work. Her dad, Bruce, dropped corny jokes that had everyone groaning and chuckling at the same time. And her sister, Chloe, playfully teased Karen about her dancing at the office party. Katie, however, was the most animated of them all. She peppered Chloe with questions about her favorite color and favorite ice cream, giggled at Bruce's dad jokes, and proudly declared that Karen was her new best tea party guest. After dinner, Katie hugged Karen tightly and insisted on exchanging numbers. "I'm calling you later this week," she beamed. "Don't forget, you're my new favorite friend." Later that night, Corey tucked Katie into bed. She looked up at him with sleepy, happy eyes. "Thanks, Dad, for today. It's nice having another girl around who likes what I like." Corey brushed her hair back gently, a smile tugging at his lips. "I'm glad you had fun, sweetheart." He kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and walked to his own room. But lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, he realized something had shifted. For years, since the divorce, he'd kept his world small. Work, his daughter, and nothing else. Tonight felt different, lighter, warmer. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to open his heart again. The next morning, as Corey worked in his office, his phone buzzed. Ellen's voice rang out the moment he answered. "So," she teased, "how was dinner with Karen's family?" Corey leaned back in his chair, recounting the evening. His tone was lighter than he realized, his words spilling out effortlessly as he described Erica's warmth, Bruce's humor, and how easily Karen fit in. Ellen suddenly burst out laughing. "What?" Corey asked, confused. "You've been talking about her for 10 minutes straight," Ellen said with a grin in her voice. "It's not just Katie who's crazy about Karen. You are too. Admit it." "I'm just glad Katie found a new friend," Corey argued half-heartedly. Ellen hummed knowingly. "Sure, keep telling yourself that." But when Corey hung up, he knew she was right. The next day, Corey tried to bury himself in work, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Karen. Finally, with a sigh, he picked up the phone. "Would you have dinner with Katie and me tomorrow night?" Karen sighed apologetically. "Sorry, I can't. I have a training class after work." Disappointment hit harder than he expected. "Oh, I see." But then her voice softened. "I can come tonight, if that works." Relief flooded him, his voice instantly lighter. "Tonight is perfect." Excited, he called Katie into his office. "Guess what? Karen's coming for dinner tonight, Katie squealed, throwing her arms around him. Best day ever. That evening, when Karen arrived, Katie ran straight into her arms. Laughing, Karen lifted her with ease and spun her around, before setting her down. "Careful, Katie," Corey scolded lightly. Karen grinned, brushing off his concern. "I don't mind. It's nice to feel loved." For a moment, Corey just stood there, watching them. Katie glowing with joy, Karen smiling with effortless warmth, and something stirred deep inside him. Could this be real? Could he have this? Again, someone to share his mornings, his nights, his life? Throughout dinner, Corey was quieter than usual. He let Katie chatter away about school, her best friend, and a funny mix-up with the teacher. Normally, he'd gently rein her in, but tonight he simply listened, stealing glances at Karen whenever she laughed. His eyes lingered longer than he realized. Karen noticed. She found herself sneaking glances back, trying to read him. There was something in his silence that unsettled her in a way that made her heart race. When dinner wrapped up, Katie yawned dramatically. "Ugh, I'm so tired. Karen, help me to bed." Karen chuckled, glancing at Corey. "Only if it's okay with your dad." Katie rolled her eyes, already tugging Karen's hand. "He'll love the break. He's read me the same story 3 times this week." Karen laughed and followed her, Corey's gaze lingering on her all the way down the hall. Once Katie was tucked in, Karen returned to the living room. Corey was waiting, fingers drumming lightly against his knee. When she sat down across from him, she raised an eyebrow. "You've been awfully quiet tonight. What's going on?" He let out a low chuckle. "So you noticed?" "Oh, I noticed," she teased. For a long moment he hesitated, then leaned forward, determination flickering in his eyes. "I was trying to find the right moment to ask, would you go on a date with me?" Karen blinked, startled. Of all the things she'd expected, that wasn't one of them. Slowly, a smile tugged at her lips. "I'll think about it," she said playfully, standing to grab her coat. Corey's face fell slightly, but she left him with a grin as she walked out. Sliding into her car, she pulled out her phone and typed a message. "Yes, I'd love to go on a date with you." The thrill bubbled in her chest as she hit send. The following evening, Corey was nervous, truly nervous, for the first time in years. It wasn't just a dinner. It was Karen. He wanted this to matter. When she stepped outside her apartment, his breath caught. She looked stunning, effortlessly elegant, her curls framing her face perfectly. Karen smirked as she walked toward his car. "You're staring." "Corey?" He blinked, snapping out of it, and hurried to open the passenger door. "You look amazing." She slid into the seat with a soft smile. "Thank you." The restaurant was upscale, warm light glinting off polished silverware. Corey pulled out her chair, his usual confidence softened by the nervous tap of his fingers against the table. Karen chuckled. "Relax. It's just me." "Yeah," he admitted, "but for some reason, I'm still nervous." She reached across, brushing her fingers against his hand. "Then let's make it easy. Tell me something I don't know about you." Their conversation unfolded naturally, about quirks, habits, and little pieces of their lives. They laughed, teased, and let their guards down in ways neither expected. By dessert, Corey wasn't worried about how the night was going. He was simply happy. When he walked her to her door, silence stretched between them, heavy with anticipation. "Tonight was nice," Karen whispered. "It was," Corey agreed, his voice low. Almost without thought, he leaned in. Karen didn't pull away. Their lips met in a kiss, soft, warm, and filled with possibility. When they pulled apart, Karen's smile lingered. "Well, that changes everything." Corey exhaled, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face. "Yeah, it does." As Karen stepped inside her apartment that night, her heart pounded in her chest. Corey was opening up to her, and for the first time she realized just how much she wanted to be the person he let in. when Corey walked through his own front door. Later, he was surprised to see a small figure waiting in the dimly lit hallway. Before he could react, Katie came running toward him, eyes wide with excitement. "Daddy, how was the date?" she asked eagerly. Corey blinked, setting his keys on. "The entry table. Who told you I was on a date, and why are you still awake?" Katie grinned, not the least bit guilty. "Aunt Ellen said you went out with Karen and I couldn't sleep. I was too excited." Corey sighed, but a smile tugged at his lips. He knelt down to her level. "And why were you so excited?" "Because I like Karen. She's fun, and she listens, and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a little kid." Katie bounced on her toes, giggling. Corey chuckled, ruffling her curls. "Yeah, she's pretty great, huh?" Katie leaned closer, her voice full of curiosity. "But Daddy, do you like her?" He hesitated for only a moment before his expression softened. "Yes, I like her. Maybe not as much as you do, though." Katie waved a small hand dismissively. "Don't worry, Daddy. You'll get there. Karen's amazing." Corey laughed out loud, shaking his head at his daughter's bold confidence. "Is that so?" "Yep," Katie yawned. "You'll see." He scooped her up in his arms. "All right, little matchmaker. Let's get you to bed before you start planning a wedding." As he tucked her in, her eyes fluttered closed. "Good night, Daddy," she murmured. "Good night, sweetheart," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Walking back down the hall, Corey couldn't shake the warmth spreading through his chest. Maybe Katie was onto something. Maybe Karen was something special. Over the next several weeks, Karen became a regular part of their lives. She slipped into their world so naturally, movie nights on the couch, baking cookies in the kitchen, helping Katie with homework. Katie adored her, and Corey found himself realizing just how much he cared too. But soon, something changed. Karen grew distracted, her smile still warm, but her eyes often far away. She cancelled dinners, cut visits short, and brushed off Corey's gentle questions. At the table one evening, her phone kept lighting up with text after text. Finally, with a sigh, she turned it face down and forced a smile. "What's going on?" Corey asked quietly. "It's nothing," she said too quickly. That single word, nothing, felt like a wall slamming down between them. The days that followed only widened the distance. After one too many cancelled dinners, Corey sat staring at his phone, the old ache of mistrust clawing back in. Finally, he typed the words he never wanted to send. "I think we should take some time apart. I need to think about our relationship." The moment he pressed send, a heavy weight settled in his chest. Not even an hour later, there was a knock at his door. Karen stood there, eyes bright with worry, breath uneven. "I need to know why, Corey." "Why are you pulling away?" He raked a hand through his hair. "Because you've been so distant, canceling plans, dodging questions. Maybe we're too much for you right now." Her brows furrowed. "No, that's not it." "Then what?" His frustration spilled over. "You're here, but you're not really here. I don't know what you want anymore." Karen took a deep breath, fingers twisting together. "I've been working on a major project at work. It's been more demanding than I expected." And, she paused, searching his eyes. "My boss offered me a promotion." Corey blinked, the words sinking in. "That's great." Her smile was tight, her eyes shadowed. "The job is across the country," his chest constricted. "And your boss has been pushing you to take it." She nodded, a silence stretched, heavy and unspoken, before he asked softly, "Why haven't you accepted?" Karen's gaze didn't waver. "Because everyone I love is here. My mom, my dad, Chloe, Katie," her voice softened, "and you." Corey's breath caught. "You love us?" Her lips curved into a trembling smile. "Yes, I do. And I'm not ready to give that up." The tension broke. Corey stepped forward, cupping her face gently, searching for hesitation, but finding none. He kissed her, pouring into that moment everything he hadn't dared to say. When he pulled back, his voice was low, certain. "I love you too, Karen. I just didn't know if you felt the same, but now I do, and I want a future with you." Before she could answer, a small voice piped up from the hallway. "Are you guys kissing?" They turned to see Katie, eyes wide, with excitement. She darted forward and wrapped her arms around both their legs in a fierce hug. "Does this mean you're ours forever, Karen?" she asked, hopeful and bright. Karen laughed, brushing Katie's curls back. "I hope so, but Dad and I still have some things to learn." She shot Corey a teasing look, like communication. Corey chuckled, squeezing her hand. "Fair enough, I'll work on being more open. And I'll work on letting someone in," Karen said softly. Katie huffed dramatically, hands on her hips. "So much talking. Can we have ice cream now that you kissed and made up?" They both burst into laughter, the tension melting away. "All right, kiddo," Corey said, scooping her up. "Let's celebrate." Karen grinned. "I'm in." As they headed toward the kitchen, Karen felt something shift inside her. She had spent so long standing on her own, guarding her independence. But here, with Corey and Katie, she realized she wasn't just falling for a man, she was falling for a family, and she wasn't ready to give that up for anything. The next morning, Karen had barely settled into her office when her phone rang. Seeing the school's number, her heart lurched. She answered quickly. "Miss James, this is Nurse Davis from Katie's school. Katie has a fever and isn't herself. We've tried calling Mr. Hillman, but we can't reach him. You're listed as an emergency contact. Can you come get her?" Karen didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." She grabbed her bag, hurried out the door, and within 20 minutes was at the school. Katie sat slumped in a chair, pale and exhausted, her curls damp with sweat. Karen knelt beside her, brushing the hair from her forehead. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm here." "Oh, sweet girl," Karen murmured as she knelt in front of Katie. "Let's get you home, okay?" Katie nodded weakly, her small hand slipping into Karen's as she guided her out. Karen walked her to the car, whispering reassurances the whole way. Back at Corey's house, Karen wasted no time calling her mother, Erica. Within minutes, Erica arrived with her medical kit, calm and steady as ever. Together, they settled Katie into bed, sponging her forehead and coaxing her to sip water. Hours later, the front door opened sharply. Corey rushed inside, his face taut with worry. But when he stepped into Katie's room, he froze. Karen sat in the rocking chair, Katie nestled against her chest, clinging like a lifeline. Karen's voice floated softly in the air, a lullaby barely above a whisper, as she rocked the child back and forth. Katie's damp curls clung to her cheeks, but her breathing was steadier now, comforted by Karen's presence. Something shifted deep in Corey's chest, something powerful and undeniable. Erica, who stood beside him, leaned in and whispered, "What do you see when you look at them?" Corey swallowed hard, his voice breaking as he answered, "My world, my daughter, my love, my family." Erica smiled knowingly, squeezed his shoulder, and quietly slipped out. That night, Karen never left Katie's side. She curled up next to her in bed, keeping a cool cloth on her forehead and whispering comfort until the fever finally broke. By morning, Katie was propped up on pillows, a faint smile on her tired face as cartoons flickered on the screen. "Hey," Karen said softly, brushing a hand over her curls. "You're looking better." "I feel better," Katie whispered with a grin. Corey stepped inside then, his eyes warm and filled with unspoken gratitude. He sat on the edge of the bed, reached for Karen's hand and held it tightly. For a long moment, he said nothing, just looked at her with a depth she had never seen before. Then, with his heart pounding in his chest, he finally spoke. "Karen, will you marry me?" Karen's breath caught. Tears filled her eyes before she could even form words. She nodded, her whole body trembling as emotion overwhelmed her. Corey leaned in, kissing her softly, sealing the promise between them. Katie watched, her face lighting up. "Does this mean I can call you Mom now?" Karen laughed through her tears, pulling Katie into a tight hug. "Yes, sweetheart. I'd love that." Corey wrapped his arms around them both, and for the first time in years, his family felt whole. By lunchtime, Karen still had tears brimming every time she looked at Corey and Katie. Katie, ever blunt, wrinkled her nose. "Daddy, is she ever going to stop crying?" Corey chuckled, brushing away one of Karen's tears. "They're happy tears, sweetheart." At that moment, the front door burst open. Ellen rushed in, nearly knocking Karen over with a hug. "I have a sister now," she cried, squeezing Karen until they were both in tears. Katie sniffled suddenly. "Dad, I don't even know why, but I feel like crying too." Corey laughed, pulling his daughter close. "That's all right, kiddo. It just means your heart's happy." The following Sunday, everyone gathered at the James family home for their traditional dinner. The long wooden table was set under the oak tree in the backyard, draped with a white tablecloth and fresh flowers. Laughter and chatter filled the air as the scent of grilled food mingled with the breeze. Karen looked around. Her parents, Erica, and Bruce, her sister Chloe, Ellen, and now Corey and Katie. This was home. As everyone settled into their seats, Corey stood and cleared his throat. "Before we eat, I have an announcement." Karen tilted her head curiously. Then, to her astonishment, Corey dropped to one knee. Gasps rippled through the table. "I know I already asked you once," Corey said, pulling a velvet box from his pocket, "but this time I wanted to do it properly." He opened it, revealing an elegant ring that perfectly reflected her. His eyes locked on hers. "Karen, from the moment you stumbled into my life, you changed everything. You made me believe again, in love, in family, in forever. I don't ever want a day without you by my side. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up instantly as Karen nodded, laughing through her sobs. "Yes, yes!" The backyard erupted with cheers. Katie jumped up, clapping wildly. She said yes, again. Chloe and Ellen were crying. Erica held Bruce's hand with a proud smile. Corey slipped the ring onto Karen's finger, then pulled her into a kiss as applause and laughter surrounded them. Katie tugged at Karen's dress with a wide grin. "So, now I can officially call you Mum forever, right?" Karen knelt down, cupped her face, and whispered, "Forever." Months later, beneath a golden sunset, Corey and Karen stood at the altar in a charming garden ceremony. Fairy lights twinkled through the trees, white roses lined the aisle, and Katie tossed petals with the biggest grin as flower girl. Karen was radiant in her ivory lace gown, her arm linked with her father's as she walked toward Corey. His heart raced as he met her gaze, every step sealing the life they were about to build together. At the altar, Corey took her hands, his voice trembling. "I told you I wanted a future with you," Karen smiled, eyes glistening, "and I told you I wasn't ready to give this up." They exchanged vows spoken straight from their hearts, promises of love, trust, and forever. When the officiant declared, "You may kiss the bride," Corey swept Karen into his arms and kissed her, sealing their story with joy. Katie jumped up and down. "They did it," she squealed. The reception brimmed with laughter and love. Ellen's speech about finally getting a sister left no dry eyes, while Chloe's playful toast had the crowd roaring with laughter. Later that night, as Corey and Karen swayed under the stars for their first dance, Katie curled up nearby, drifting to sleep with a smile. Corey kissed Karen's forehead. "We did it," he whispered. Karen leaned against him, her heart full. "We sure did." And with family, love, and a forever ahead of them, Karen knew this was exactly where she was meant to be. The end. Thank you for listening to A Green Tea, Tales Romance. Help our channel grow. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.